Well, I'm not, sir. Whatever was in his voice, there was emotion in mine sure enough. Blast it. I can see that. What took you so long? The corner of my mouth twitched up. I'm glad to see you, too. My feet suddenly started to move. Before I knew it, I stood beside his bed. My fingers reached out, and I took his right hand in mine. Closing my eyes, I squeezed, gently, letting the feel of him, smooth and hard, fill me up. What, pray, came his cool voice from down on the bed, are you doing? I'm holding your hand, I murmured, basking in the feeling. He was real, and alive, and with me. I realized that. To what purpose have you initiated this superfluous form of physical contact? Oh, shut up. There was a momentary silence. I beg your pardon, his voice lowered to a dangerous level, but right now I didn't care. I am your employer, you will address me with respect. Fine, shut up, sir. That is not what I was referring to, and you. Blast you. Wrenching my eyes open, I glared down at him. I thought you were dead, too, and I would have bloody missed you. Really missed you. He glared back just as fiercely. In that case, you should have ceased searching. No point in chasing something that is already lost. It would be a waste of morn. Quickly raising his hand in mine, I drew it to my lips and placed one, swift, almost imperceptible kiss on the inside of his palm. His voice cut off as if severed with a welding torch. I said, shut up, sir. Our eyes met, and there was silence again, but it was a different kind of silence, one I didn't mind at all, one that wasn't the least bit cold. It must really be you. Shaking his head, he gazed up at me with those dark eyes of his. No figment of my imagination would dare to speak to me like that. Cautiously, I raised my free hand, and let it join the other one, enclosing his strong masculine fingers with my smaller ones. I'm always real for you. More than just real, you're always you. Glad to be of service, sir. Raising his free hand, he crooked one finger. Come here. For what? I raised an eyebrow. Do you want to initiate a bit more superfluous physical contact? Miss Linton. My eyebrow rose even higher. What? Not, Mr. Linton. I thought I would have to pretend to be a man while I work for you. I thought it would cause too big a scandal, otherwise. Miss Linton, close your mouth and come here. Now. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. The springs of the mattress creaked as I sank down on it. All of a sudden, Mr. Ambrose's face was very close, the planes of his perfectly sculpted cheekbones standing out sharply, his dark eyes like the sea itself. I felt something squeeze my heart, almost painfully. When I stepped on land, I thought I was safe from drowning, I rasped. But when I look into your eyes, I'm not sure anymore. His eyes narrowed infinitesimally, the closest he ever came to looking confused. Is that supposed to make sense? Not really, it's supposed to make you feel something. Ah, he gave a curt nod, and gently squeezed my hand. You will be pleased to hear, then, that the method seems to be effective. There was silence again. We looked at each other. I had him as if I had found everything I wanted. He had me as if he were lost. Lost in me, or, maybe just lost. You're supposed to say something, too, you know, I pointed out, just managing to keep from smiling. Something like what? Maybe something about what you feel. If I thought his eyes had been boring into me powerfully before, I was mistaken. It was nothing to what they now did, capturing me, holding me prisoner, drawing me closer. I would have thought that required no words. Is it not obvious, maybe, but I would like you to tell me anyway. A waste of breath and time. Yes, but a wonderful one. Please. Cocking my head, I raised his hand to my lips again, not kissing this time, just skimming over the tops of his knuckles. Please, sir. I heard his breath hitch, and saw the muscles in his jaw tighten. What? He asked, his voice raw as a split iceberg. If I don't have the words. There are no words for how I feel right now. None that I know. Bloody hell. I closed my eyes, letting joy flood through me. Those, I told him, those were exactly the right ones. But I told you I had nothing to say. Yes, and you did it spectacularly. They were the best non-words ever not said. You are not making any sense, Miss Linton. One corner of my mouth twitched again. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to make you feel. Suddenly sitting up straighter, he gave a derisive snort. You want to know what I feel? I feel exceedingly aggravated. I have been forced to remain idle, lying in this infernal bed and simply wasting time by doing nothing, for the better part of the last 2 days. I could have been back to London by now, back to my business. I do not even want to think of the losses I incurred due to this inexcusable procrastination. Mr. Ambrose lying down doing nothing. That didn't sound like the semi-human machine I knew. Why didn't you simply get up and leave if you felt like it? His eyes turned a shade darker. Because the wretched female who owns this establishment went behind my back and secured the services of a doctor. This medical gentleman told me that, apparently, wasting time by lying in a bed is an essential element in my convalescence. Doubtfully, I looked at his figure, lying as stiffly on the sheets as if the bed were a board with nails jutting out of it. I think when the doctor said you should stay abed, he meant stay abed and relax. I cannot relax. I do not like beds. Idle banter. Are you truly making idle banter with Mr. Do Not Waste Time Ambrose, Lily? Well, miracles do happen. Oh really, you don't like beds, then where do you sleep? Derisively, he looked down at the object he was lying on. On a bed. Cannot stand it. Get out of it as quickly as I can every morning. Wouldn't waste my time with it if I didn't have to. I hid my smirk behind my hand. Why do you have to? After all, if sleeping is such a waste of time, why not go without it? A muscle in his face twitched. If Mr. Ambrose had been someone else, he would have scowled. I can't. He looked very displeased with the fact. Why not? Oh, blimey, don't tell me you've tried. Once, after 4 very productive days and nights without any sleep, I collapsed at one of my factories and nearly fell into a vat of boiling wax. 3. I shook my head. Such a shame you missed. You'd have made a charming addition to Madame Tussauds. Judging from the look he gave me, Mr. Rickard Ambrose didn't appreciate sarcasm. This is not a joking matter, Miss Linton. Neither is my having to stay in this infernal bed. This place is as close to hell on earth as one can get. Besides the inactivity gnawing at my sanity, there's the mother, who keeps forcing a most disgusting hot broth down my throat. And she is nothing compared to the daughter. I believe that young female is not quite right in the head. She keeps asking me if we are feeling well, although it is perfectly evident that, besides her, I am the only person in the room. And she keeps making these strange, disturbing faces at me. I cleared my throat. I believe she's smiling at you. Whatever for. She likes you. He gave a sharp, derisive snort. Hardly. If the female had any positive feelings towards me, she would let me get up and leave, not keep me here and insist on my wasting time sleeping. Uncertainly, my eyes wandered to the bandage on his leg. I wanted nothing more than to have him out of this house and out of Miss Fotheringay's claws, but Are you sure you should leave yet? Your leg is of no significance. Now that you are here, I am determined to leave this place at the earliest possible moment. But, no buts, Miss Linton. Go and inform Mrs. Fotheringay of our imminent departure. Find out when the next suitable transport leaves this place. Out of reflex, I opened my mouth to protest again, but on this subject, I didn't really need much convincing. Springing to my feet, I gave a mock salute. Yes, sir, right away, sir. Before he could devour me alive or freeze me to a block of ice with his cold stare, I was at the door and down the corridor. I found Mrs. Fotheringay in the living room, busy embroidering pretty birds on white linen. Mrs. Fotheringay. Ah, there you are, dear. Did you find the gentleman? Was he the one you were looking for? Yes, I felt relief flood through me as I said the word aloud. He really was alive, and safe. Yes, he was, he is. A smile spread over the old lady's face. That's wonderful, dear, I'm so happy for you. Mrs. Fotheringay, I'm terribly grateful for everything you've done for my, cousin. You probably saved his life. Now that we've found each other again, you shouldn't impose on your hospitality any longer. Do you know if a coach comes through this village? Mrs. Fotheringay's hand slipped, and she almost stitched the beak of her pretty little embroidered bird shut. Staring up at me in surprise, she put the needlework aside. You mean you want to leave, but is he well enough? Oh, yes, I think so, and a bit of exercise would do him a world of good, believe me. Besides, I won't rest easy until he's miles away from your charming beast of a daughter. Well, if you really think so, my dear, there's a coach leaving in 2 hours. It leaves every day at this time for Dover, and I'm sure from Dover you can catch a carriage too. Where is it your cousin lives? In London. Ah, the metropolis. Mrs. Fotheringay gave a nostalgic sigh. I haven't been in London since I was a little girl. Does he have a house there? An image flashed through my mind of the monumental complex of stone and concrete with its great central hall, countless offices, an impressive view of the city of London that was called Empire House, the headquarters of Mr. Ambrose's business empire. In a manner of speaking. A nice place. You could say that, yes. She might have asked more questions, but at that moment, the door opened and her daughter entered the room. Mrs. Fotheringay turned to her with a bright smile on her face. Violet, my dear, our guest is indeed the one the young lady has been looking for. They're happily reunited, and he feels well enough to return home to London. Isn't that wonderful news? Violet muttered something affirmative, but to judge by the way she was staring daggers at me, I didn't think, wonderful news, were the words she would have chosen. I allowed myself a little self-satisfied smile at her, then turned and headed back to Mr. Ambrose. When I told him that we had to wait 2 hours for the coach, well, let's just say he was not best pleased. Read an improving book for a change, I advised. What would you suggest? He demanded, glaring at the narrow shelf on the wall. Mrs. Macpherson's Book of Advice for Housewives. Dangerous Creatures of the Cold Sea. Cartwright's Collected Nursery Rhymes. Why not? Shrugging, and giving him a meaningful smile, I picked Dangerous Creatures of the Cold Sea off the shelf. You never know where you might pick up a useful tip or two. I cuddled into a chair near the window and opened the volume in question. He remained lying on the bed, stiff as a board. Soon, we settled into a silence that was, to my intense surprise, quite companionable. Still, whenever I glanced up from descriptions of sea lions or whales, Mr. Ambrose seemed tenser than the last time. Something was clearly on his mind, something besides wasted time. The minutes passed by. I left behind whales and went on to sharks. More time passed, and nothing whatsoever happened. When the outburst finally came, it was out of the blue. You want to know what I felt? My head eyes snapped up from the book to stare at Mr. Ambrose. It took me a moment to connect his words to our earlier conversation. He had picked it up as if no time had passed in between. Well, he demanded, do you? I was just about to make some teasing reply about him not having any words for feelings, but I caught sight of his face in time and stopped myself. Right now was not the time for flippancy. Instead, I just nodded. Yes. He looked away from me, shaking his head. I'm not talking about just now. I'm talking about back on the ship, when the storm hit. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. I remembered all too well what he had said and done well, almost done back on the ship. And Mr. Ambrose was just like an iceberg, cold, hard, and only a tenth of him visible. The rest he kept well hidden. To imagine what feelings must have been raging inside him to make him act like that. I still want to know, so if you want to tell me. He raised his eyes to mine again, his gaze iron hard. I felt desperate. I've faced death many times before, Miss Linton, but never once have I felt desperate before, not once in my entire life. Desperate, that didn't make any sense. He hadn't seemed desperate to save himself at all, back on the ship. Quite the contrary, his only thought was getting me off that sinking death trap. My thoughts tapered off into nothing, and my lips opened slightly. Oh. Maybe it wasn't himself he was desperate for. The thought came out of nowhere, sweet, singing seductively to me, like a siren. It was too good to be true, but, what if it was? Why did you it? I asked quietly. You're one of the richest men in the world, and strong. You could have tried to buy yourself a place in the lifeboat, or fought for one. Why did you make me go, and stay behind yourself? His left little finger twitched, the equivalent of an angry growl for Mr. Rickard Ambrose. I did a cost-benefit analysis. A what? A cost-benefit analysis. I weighed the cost of risking my life against the benefit of saving yours. To my not inconsiderable incredulity, the benefit outweighed the cost. Now it was really hard to keep the smirk off my face. Unbelievable, I know. You are only a relatively insignificant young female with a bad temper, unpleasant relatives and an income so low you have to pose as a male to earn a living. You really know how to give a girl compliments. I, on the other hand, am one of the most influential and powerful public figures in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, in the Empire, maybe in the entire world. I am clearly a much more important personage than you, ergo my life should be the more valuable thing to save. His little finger twitched again, but, I found that other factors entered into the equation. Leaning towards him, I put my right hand over one of his. We'll have to talk about those other factors, sooner or later. Underneath my hand, I felt his little finger twitch twice more. Dear me, he was practically an emotional wreck tonight. Meeting my eyes again, he nodded, curtly. I know. He held my gaze for a moment, and in his look lay 1,000 unspoken words. Or maybe there's not a single word in it, and you just have a much too overactive imagination. All right, maybe. How long do we still have to wait? For a wild moment, I thought he meant until we could have our talk. Then I realized he wanted to know how long it would be until the coach left for Dover. Of course. Doesn't your pocket watch work anymore, or did you lose it when the ship went down? No, that harpy took it. Miss Fotheringay. Yes, she said it was bad for me, checking my watch every 5 minutes. She thought it caused over-anxiety. Don't worry, I'll get it back for you. Patting his hand, I rose and made my way towards the door. At the door I paused and looked back with a grin on my face. Will you be alright while I'm gone? I mean, you're going to have to waste at least 2.5 minutes waiting for me. Mr. Ambrose gave me a cool stare. On the contrary, I shall not be wasting time. He picked up an issue of The Spectator that was lying on the bedside table. I shall be finishing this. There are a few articles that I have not read yet. It is time to check up on what is happening in the metropolis. Have fun. He ruffled the pages. Fun has nothing to do with it. This is information acquisition, Miss Linton. Of course it is, sir. I'll be back soon. Glancing back at him as I closed the door behind me, I caught a last look of him, lying in the bed, reading the magazine. It was a brief look, so I might have been mistaken, of course. But I could have sworn he was gazing after me with something almost akin to a smile on his granite face. It didn't take me nearly as long to retrieve the watch as I'd feared. Miss Fotheringay had entrusted it to her mother, and the kind old lady had not only wiped it meticulously clean, but even taken it to the local watchmaker to have the mechanism inside cleaned, too. She didn't even mention money, for this or for the room Mr. Ambrose had slept in. I would gladly have paid her out of my own purse only. I had no purse, and certainly no money to put in one. Letting the pocket watch snap open to check the time, I re-entered Mr. Ambrose's room. Good news, I announced. It's only half an hour now until the coach leaves. We should get going if we want to be there in tea. That was when I lifted my head and caught sight of Mr. Ambrose's face. My voice abruptly cut off. There wasn't even the hint of a trace of a fraction of a smile on his face now. It was as hard and cold as I had ever seen it. No, actually, it was a lot harder. He was holding The Spectator clenched in his fists as if it were a pamphlet demanding a pay rise for his employees. His eyes were boring into the paper with deadly, ice-cold wrath. At the sound of my voice, he lifted his head and focused this look on me. You, the word was spoken with so icy a threat, such chilling of power, that it made a shiver run down my back. You did this. Dee did what? You're stuttering. He's just staring at you, and you're stuttering. Get a grip, Lily. You did this. Seeming not to have heard me, he flung back the blanket over his legs and rose with a sinuous grace that you would never have suspected from so stiff a man. He stalked towards me, that was the only word for it, stalked without paying the slightest attention to his injured leg. His eyes remained trained on his pray sweet little me. You did this. Oh, I'll make you pay for this. Did what? Was it only my imagination, or did my voice sound suspiciously like a squeak? I took a step back, and another. I was a feminist. I was all for standing up to men, but not this man, and not while he was in this mood. I took another step back, and my derriere bumped into the doorframe. What did I do? Read this. Giving me one more vengeful, dark glare, he shoved the magazine under my nose. I took it, and the heading jumped right out at me. Scandal around financial magnate. I tried to lift my hands, tried to take the magazine to read, but my arm wouldn't move. I was frozen in place by the ice in his eyes. Don't want to read it, do you? He inquired, with an alarmingly soft voice. Don't feel like delving into the details. Don't worry, I'll read it for you. And he lifted the crumpled magazine to read, hiding his face. Part of me was glad I could no longer see him, but that just meant I had more attention to spare for the ice of his voice when he started to speak. Scandalous events often shake the newspapers these days, but seldom has the press of London had to report such an outrage as the writer of this article has now to reveal. Not long ago, at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, London, at a meeting of the esteemed Anti-Suffragist League of London, numerous important personages and a crowd of supporters came together to fight against those unnatural creatures who call themselves suffragettes and feminists and deny the fact that a woman's God-given place is in the home. The shiver that had run down my back earlier realized that its work wasn't done yet. Taking a run up, it raced up my back again, leaving goosebumps in its wake. Oh no. Among the gentlemen present, Mr. Ambrose continued without mercy, was Richard Ambrose, renowned financial magnate. However, Mr. Ambrose's performance at the meeting did not at all reflect the power and position of his social rank. Blast, no, a curse on all newspapers and magazines. Please, let this not be what I think it is. Not that it was Mr. Ambrose himself who caused an outrage. No, it was the behavior of his secretary, whom he had brought along to the meeting, that was beyond all bounds of decorum. A young and still beardless young fellow people heard Mr. Ambrose referred to as Mr. Linton. Blast. Lowering the magazine an inch or two, Mr. Ambrose's deadly stare burrowed into me. I swallowed, surprised I didn't drop dead on the spot. At this event, Mr. Ambrose continued reading, somehow managing to keep me pinned with his gaze while simultaneously looking at the pages in front of him, a rally held officially against the absurd notions of feminists and suffragettes. This Mr. Linton dared to speak out in favor of such nonsense. His speech is reprinted in the section for jokes. His eyes fully focused on me now, and he cocked his head. There is an amusing caricature of the two of us, too. Do you wish to see it? I cleared my throat. Not particularly, no. I see. Well, then let us relish the rest of this journalistic masterpiece, shall we? With a hiss, he dived behind the magazine again. Please God, let me die now. Somehow, the impetuous youth managed to enthrall the simple-minded people in the crowd. In the end, Mr. Linton had to be forcibly removed from the stage to shouts of, "Long live suffragism." Mr. Ambrose's ominous voice reached me from behind the veil of paper. There is little doubt that he is a violent, unstable young man. And as for his employer, please, God, just kill me right now. It can't be that difficult. I don't need anything fancy. One lightning bolt will do. The writer of this article cannot but wonder how Mr. Ambrose proposes to run a vast business empire if he cannot even control his own secretary. Also, if Mr. Ambrose's staff is that unstable, what about himself? Are mental difficulties widespread in his circle? This casts a dark shadow of doubt on Mr. Ambrose's abilities and the future of his business. Lowering the magazine once more, Richard Ambrose raised his eyes to me, and when I saw the expression in their bottomless depths, I had to swallow. Oops. Happy homecoming. Mr. Ambrose didn't say a single word on the coach ride to Dover, and he did it in a very scary way. Nobody could be silent like Mr. Ambrose. It was a grand symphony of silence, punctuated with staccato stares and sinister drum rolls of finger flexing. In Dover, he sprang out of the rickety coach like a raven swooping down on his dead prey and stalked off, motioning for me to follow without a word. I did. We ended up in front of a shop. In the shop windows, I could see displays of trousers and tailcoats. Over the shop, large metal letters proclaimed in cursive script, Harrison White quality tailors for gentlemen. Well, Mr. Linton, Mr. Ambrose regarded me, his eyes glittering dangerously. Let's find you a pair of trousers. Let's just say that what followed wasn't exactly every lady's dream of a man buying her pretty clothes. When I left the shop half an hour later, clothed in a tailcoat and baggy trousers, and with 3 shocked sales assistants staring after us, I was feeling ready to kill. And I already had a victim in mind. The only problem was, he looked just about as ready for murder as I did. How dare you? I stuttered him, as soon as we were out of hearing. How could you do that? You're right, he growled. I can't believe I paid for those clothes out of my own pocket. But I'll promise you, the sum will be deducted from your wages. I wasn't talking about bloody money. How could you do this to me? Tugging at the fabric of the trousers, I took an enraged step towards him. I thought you had finally gotten it through your thick skull that I am a girl. I know very well what you are. I'm simply doing my very best to ignore it, and conceal it. If your little speech in front of the anti-suffragists was enough to cause such a sensation, do you have any idea what kind of scandal it would be if someone found out that a female is working as my secretary? I don't care. How could you put me in these again? After all we've been through, how could you do that to me? I did something to you. His voice was as cold and distant as the peak of some lonely mountain. And yet, the mountain was crumbling. It might just turn out to be a volcano. You dare say that to me? You are the one who humiliated me in public. I didn't humiliate anyone. I told the truth and fought for justice. Before I knew what was happening, he had gripped me by the arms and I was being swept backwards into a dark alley, until I was pressed against a cold brick wall. It was almost as hard as the feel of the body that was suddenly pressing into my front, the body of Mr. Rickard Ambrose. My heartbeat picked up, and not from fear, not from rage, either. He was so close, every line of his perfect form pressing into me. Get a grip, Lily. You're furious, remember. Suffragism has nothing to do with truth or justice, he growled, his strong hands like vices around my arms. Women aren't fit to vote, or work, or think for themselves. And the sooner you get that through your head, the better. Men are a pack of arrogant, power-hungry jackals. Better a jackal than a little, helpless puppy. At least jackals hunt for themselves. Women are too weak to do anything alone. My fist slammed into his chest with no effect whatsoever. Catching my other hand before it could hit him, he forced it upwards, until I was practically dangling from my upstretched arm. Let go. My free arm slammed my hand into his chest again. Make me let go, if you're so strong. Catching my other hand in his iron grip, he pulled it upwards, too, joining my wrists so both of my hands were pinned against the wall by just one of his. What are you waiting for? You bastard. I writhed and pulled, but my arms wouldn't budge. All I managed to do was to press myself more tightly up against the hard barrier of his body, which didn't really feel like a bad thing, but didn't increase my desire to escape, either. Blast him. He was the greatest son of a bachelor south of the North Pole. Why couldn't I feel properly revolted and disgusted? Why did it feel so good to be held by him, even when I was trying to punch him? There, you see, you're the best proof. His voice gripped me just as hard as his hands. It was the voice of someone used to command and being obeyed. Look at yourself. Look at the things you've achieved during your employ. Getting drunk right before a fight, letting the file slip through your hands, humiliating me in front of all of London. None of that was my fault. It just happened. Let go of me. And as if that weren't enough, he whispered, his cold voice sliding over me like iron fetters. You're so helpless, so weak that I have to rescue you from that infernal ship. I swam ashore alone, with my own 2 legs and feet. You had to be pulled out of the water like a drowning little puppy. Let go, I said. My knee jerked, trying to ram into him, find some vulnerable spot, but he was pressed too tightly against me. And, curse me, a part of me didn't want to fight. A part of me wanted him closer, harder, even now. Look at yourself right now. The power in his voice made me want to bite him, strike him in rage. It also made me want to dissolve right into his arms. Damn him. I need just one hand to hold you. You're weak and defenseless. Admit it. No. Resign your position as my secretary. No. You don't have the stomach for it, the strength, the tenacity. Resign, or you'll get hurt, sooner or later. No. That is an order. I said no, I won't. You gave your word to keep me, and I will hold you to it, blast you. His free arm came up so quick I didn't even see it. A strong, hard hand gripped my chin and turned my head, forcing me to look into the bottomless depths of his eyes. Respect, Mr. Linton. Show respect. Very well, blast you, sir. I glared at him with fire in my eyes. If I couldn't get my hands free, I would burn him to ashes with the pure force of my gaze, melt the ice of his with the firestorm roaring inside me. So, finally I know. That's how you feel about me. That's why you saved my life. Because you think I'm weak. His left little finger twitched. Apart from that, he showed no emotion. Yes, that's it. Well, do you know why I looked for you after the ship went down? Why I was hoping you would survive? No. Because I bloody well want my first paycheck, that's why. If you croak, I won't get a penny. His eyes narrowed infinitesimally. Is that so, Mr. Linton? Proudly, I raised my chin. Yes, it is. And it was true, absolutely. Never mind the way in which his dark stare sent my heart hammering. Never mind how his hard body, pressed up so tightly against me, made me want to be closer still, to grab him, pull him down and... Well, never mind all of that. Money. I was interested only in the money. Tightening his grip on my wrists, he leaned closer until his forehead was almost touching mine. Bloody hell, his forehead wasn't the only thing too close. His eyes were 2 giant pools of sea-deep darkness, right in front of my face, and his mouth was so near I could feel his breath on my cheek. Are you sure about that? The fingers of his free hand slid over my chin, upwards over my skin, sending a shiver through my entire body. Are you sure you want to be my secretary? Or do you want something else? Want to be something else to me? Something else? What in God's name does he mean? He can't be suggesting that we... No, he can't. Most definitely not. I want to earn my money. I growled between clenched teeth. The money to be free. Free of any man. Free of any man. He cocked his head a fraction of an inch. Except of me. I only have to put up with you from Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., sir. He regarded me for a moment, as if studying a strange and possibly dangerous specimen under the microscope. You don't belong in my office. I might have thought you do, but after that thing in The Spectator, he let the sentence trail off ominously. You're a liability, Mr. Linton. If you won't resign voluntarily, I'll have to make you. Be warned, Mr. Linton, it won't be long until you will be begging to be sacked, and I'll be rid of you. Jerking my chin free of his hand, I raised it high in the air, facing him down. You can try. Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk. The drive from Dover to London wasn't much more chatty and cheerful than the previous one. This wasn't just because of the stubborn stone statue I had for a travelling companion. No, it had begun to dawn on me that my return might not be very warm and welcoming. Considering the fact that I had left my aunt and uncle's house supposedly for a brief stroll in the park, and had ended up on a ship that took me to an adventure on a mysterious island on the French coast involving danger, industrial espionage and near death, I thought they might be a tiny little bit upset with me. Of course, neither my aunt and uncle, nor my 5 sisters actually knew anything about the adventure on the French island. I could just tell them I had lost track of time and my walk in the park had turned out to be a little longer than I expected. The only problem with that was that my aunt wasn't a very trusting woman. She might think that a week-long walk in Green Park was a bit incredible. Maybe you could say you went on a walk to Yorkshire and back, instead. That would fit the time frame much better. It would also sound even more ridiculous. What excuse would you tell your family if you had to explain having disappeared for a week? I only realized that I had spoken out loud when the stone statue in the corner raised his head and looked at me. None, Mr. Ambrose told me. I blinked, taken aback. I hadn't really expected an answer, so my next words popped out before I could really think about them. You'd disappear on your family for an entire week, just like that, without explanation. Have you done that? Left and stayed away for an entire week without sending word? No, he met my eyes coldly. I've left and stayed away without sending a word for approximately 9.5 years. I gaped at him. Ignoring me, he turned back to staring out the window. Well, so Mr. Ambrose was not a family man. Hey, what a surprise. Which still didn't answer my question. What was I going to say to my family when I returned? Well, why say anything at all? You could simply garb yourself in mysterious silence, like bloody Mr. Ice Cold Ambrose. Yes, I could do that if I wanted Aunt Brank to try and rip my head off.